Are you someone that naturally holds spaces for loved ones, for clients, for people to be? And that somehow when you create a space for someone, there's an opportunity for healing, for transformation, for incubating aha moments. Creating space is so important to build wisdom wells for ourselves and others. It's so important for deep listening. There are 4 things we can think about when we're creating spaces that can help us to create spaces. Number 1 is creating outer wisdom spaces. Number 2 is creating inner wisdom spaces. Number 3 is breaking eye contact, where we focus our eyes. And number 4 is breaking inner object contact or focus. There's something about using physical space that really can support our changing radio stations from the surface busy egoic mind to those streams of endless chatter, to find our inner teacher, to find wisdom. That doesn't mean we're trying to keep the surface mind quiet. On the contrary, we include that in our wisdom spaces. There is something about using physical space, pillows, chairs, 2 spots in the garden, 2 pieces of paper on the floor, where what you do is you designate the one paper or space to represent your question, your surface mind, and you make the other paper or space to represent your wisdom, your clear seeing and clear being. That's you creating a wisdom space. Then in your coaching or your meditation, your mindful meditation, you start sitting or standing on the first paper or the first pillow or the first chair. And you have decided that that space represents the surface. So you open to surface thoughts. You include all the chatter and all the emotions. And that's how you dig your well. Let your hands get a bit dirty. And then when you feel done there, you physically move to the other space. And that movement, that perceptual space shift, that physical change, you decide is symbolic of changing radio stations. And there is something about the physical movement that facilitates that bucket going down into the well, that helps to switch from the chattering torture chamber or peanut gallery mind, as I affectionately call it, to the depths of our inner wisdom. And it's fun and it's interesting, and it can make your meditation work, your coaching work, gain a whole new dimension. So why not create wisdom spaces in your outer spaces? And then, of course, meditation can be used really powerfully to build inner wisdom spaces. The Wisdom Well Way method is about creating outer wisdom spaces and inner spaces, where first we dig our well by including our busy minds, our hearts, being raw and real with whatever our very human experience is, journaling that, acknowledging that, being with that. Then 2, creating a bucket by asking a question, setting an intention for an inquiry. Then number 3, sending that bucket down and opening to wisdom, opening the bucket, which is also about surrendering to I don't know. We can't fill a bucket that's already full of sand. So we've emptied the bucket, we've admitted, we've surrendered to I don't know, so that we are willing to find new ways of seeing and being, so that we can enlighten our own minds, our hearts, and our own bodies. And then we translate, we tune in, we translate, and we test that wisdom in very simple ways. We check for peace, we check for openness, and we translate, knowing that words are never perfect, they're good enough, and we fill that bucket. And then finally we live the wisdom by bringing it back to the surface, by drinking, by cleaning the mud from our eyes and our eye, our seeing and our being, and growing the garden of an enlightened life. That's how we create wisdom spaces within. A lot of coaches and guides and teachers and consultants and therapists have been taught how important eye contact is. And of course, some amount of eye contact is important to show you're connecting, to show you're with someone. But when you want someone to build their well and to shift perception from surface to depth, if you want deep listening, breaking eye contact intentionally can be super important. Can you imagine if I asked you a really powerful question, and our questions are the buckets that we send into our well? And imagine I ask you the question, but that I stare. I stare at you with these big eyes, right? And I don't let you look away. Besides that's going to feel pretty intense, maybe creepy. You'll notice you want to look away to send your bucket, either to look into the distance, which is space, or to send inwards with closed eyes, which is space. We need to almost change from focused looking to unfocused, yes? Because the unfocusing frees us from tuning in and having our attention locked somewhere. So it's super important when you want deep listening to happen, if you want your coachee, somebody you're guiding, someone you're holding a space for, if you want them to go find their wisdom, you want to break eye contact. If you want to do this for you, we're looking at objects pretty much all the time in the day. And actually, if you just want a moment of accessing your wisdom, of listening deeply while you're talking to someone, while you're busy, while you're working, just break eye contact to free attention so that you can change what you're tuned into, because attention determines what we're tuned into. So that actually does mean unfocusing your gaze for a moment. Yeah? And when your eyes are closed, the tendency is to follow the same habit as when our eyes are open, that we're endlessly focusing on things and objects. Why not just allow them to be there? Thoughts, feelings, memories, images, just let them all be there. But also be curious about noticing the space in which they all arise. What about being curious to sense into the space? That's how you invite space into your felt experience, which deeply supports deep listening, helping us to build wisdom wells for ourselves in meditation and mindfulness practices, as well as master coaches who guide and facilitate others in a formal professional way, or because it's naturally who we are wherever we are.